The sun peeked over the tall buildings, painting the sky with soft pink and orange. Inside his garage, Connor was already busy. The air smelled of oil, rubber, and something else, maybe fresh coffee. Connor was a big man, not just tall, but wide with strong shoulders that filled out his old work shirt. He moved with an easy strength, like a bear in its den, even when he was just sweeping the floor. Today felt good. He whistled a little tune as he tidied up his tools, lining wrenches and screwdrivers in neat rows. Each movement showed how comfortable he was in his own skin, how much he loved his job. He ran a hand over a dusty engine, his fingers tracing the cool metal. This wasn't just work, it was a part of him. Connor had a way with machines, a special touch that made broken things whole again. He grinned, thinking about the puzzles each car presented. Some days were quiet, some were a flurry of noise and sparks. He was ready for whatever rolled in, ready to tackle any problem with his strong hands and a can-do spirit. He wiped a smudge of grease from his cheek, leaving a faint streak, and looked out the wide garage door. The street was still mostly empty, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. A new day meant new cars, new challenges, and maybe, just maybe, something a little unexpected. Just as Connor was wiping the last bit of dust from his workbench, a soft whirring sound turned into a loud cough, then a sputtering gasp. The noise was like a sick animal dying right outside his garage door. He looked up, a curious frown on his face, to see a sleek, shiny car, the kind that cost more than his entire garage, slowly rolling to a stop. It was a deep blue, sparkling even under the morning haze, and looked completely out of place on his gritty street. The driver's side door opened, and out stepped Elliot. He was everything Connor wasn't. Slim, dressed in clothes that looked like they cost a fortune, with perfectly neat hair. Elliot looked around, his brow furrowed, a picture of pure dismay. His expensive car, a symbol of his fancy life, was now a silent, stubborn lump of metal, blocking the street. He tried the ignition again, but only a sad click answered him. A sigh escaped his lips, sounding as delicate as fine china breaking. He glanced at Connor's garage, then back at his car, as if hoping it would magically fix itself. The fancy car sat there, embarrassed, right in front of the grimy, honest mechanic's shop. It was quite a sight. Elliot let out a frustrated huff, his smooth, unlined face showing clear worry. This was definitely not how he planned his morning. Elliot paced back and forth, a worried frown etched on his face. He checked his watch, then his phone, then glared at his silent car as if it had personally offended him. "Oh, this is just wonderful," he mumbled, running a hand through his already perfect hair. He looked utterly lost, a fish out of water on the gritty mechanic's street. Connor, who had been watching the whole scene unfold from his garage, stepped out. He moved with a quiet confidence that was a stark contrast to Elliot's frantic energy. "Trouble?" Connor asked, his voice a low rumble, surprisingly gentle. He had a friendly smile, a crinkle at the corners of his eyes that made him seem approachable, despite his large size. Elliot jumped a little, startled. He hadn't noticed Connor standing there. "My car," he began, gesturing helplessly at the expensive blue vehicle. "It just died right here. I have a very important meeting, and now this." He looked genuinely distressed, his shoulders slumping. Connor walked over to the car, circling it once with a knowing gaze. He wasn't bothered by the fancy make or model. To him, it was just another machine with a problem. "Looks like she's had enough for the morning," he said, his smile widening. "Don't you worry, I can take a look, probably something simple. I'll have her purring again in no time." His calm words and easy grin were a soothing balm to Elliot's frayed nerves. For the first time since his car had quit, Elliot felt a tiny spark of hope. With Elliot feeling a little less stressed, Connor quickly got to work. He rolled a low, wheeled cart filled with tools out from his garage. He grabbed a big wrench first, its metal gleaming even in the dim morning light. Without a word, he opened the hood of Elliot's shiny blue car. A tangle of wires, hoses, and metal parts lay hidden beneath, looking like a confusing mess to Elliot. But to Connor, it was like an open book. His eyes scanned the engine with sharp focus, his brow furrowed in concentration. He didn't hesitate. His big hands, calloused and strong, plunged right into the engine's guts. He twisted, pulled, and poked, making small adjustments. The clean lines of Elliot's expensive car were soon smudged with his greasy fingerprints. Connor didn't mind. The dirt was a badge of honor, a sign of honest work. He moved with a practiced grace, each motion smooth and purposeful. He knew exactly what he was doing, even when the job was tricky. A small grunt escaped his lips as he tightened a bolt, showing he was putting all his strength into it. This was his world, and he was the master of it. He was a human puzzle solver, bringing order to the chaos of a broken machine, and he was very good at it. Elliot stood a little way back, his expensive shoes carefully avoiding any oil stains on the ground. His initial worry about his meeting still nagged at him, a tiny knot in his stomach. But as he watched Connor work, a different feeling started to grow. He had always seen cars as fancy boxes that just worked asterisk or didn't. He never thought about the intricate dance of parts, the hidden power beneath the hood. Connor's hands moved with such purpose, such knowing. It was like watching an artist, but instead of paint, he used wrenches, and his canvas was an engine. Elliot found himself leaning in, drawn by the raw skill on display. He saw Connor's fingers, strong and calloused, easily navigate tight spaces, twisting a bolt here, connecting a wire there. It was a language Elliot didn't understand, but Connor spoke it fluently. A small gasp escaped Elliot's lips when Connor effortlessly lifted a heavy part, his muscles flexing under his shirt. Elliot was used to people who worked with their minds, with numbers and words, not with their sheer physical strength and dirty hands. It was surprising. He'd never really thought about how impressive such work could be. The worry about his car was still there, a dull hum, but it was now mixed with a growing sense of wonder. He was truly impressed by the big mechanic and his amazing ability to make sense of the mechanical chaos. The morning sun climbed higher, warming the garage, and Connor worked on, not slowing his pace. His movements were powerful, each turn of a wrench, each push of a lever backed by solid muscle. The short sleeves of his work shirt were pushed up, showing off strong arms that rippled and flexed with every effort. Veins stood out on his forearms, a clear sign of the hard work he was doing. A bead of sweat trickled down his temple, catching the light as it went, before disappearing into the grease on his cheek. He didn't seem to notice, too lost in the problem before him. His face was set in a focused mask, but occasionally a small grin would flash when he figured out a tricky part, a tiny hint of triumph. Elliot found himself watching Connor's back, then his arms, then the way his neck muscles tightened as he leaned deep into the engine. There was a raw, earthy power about Connor that was completely new to Elliot. It wasn't the kind of power that came from money or fancy titles. It was the power of a body used for honest, tough work. The sweat, the grease, the grunts of effort, it all added up to a picture of strength that was truly impressive. Connor looked like a force of nature, completely in his element, a strong, capable man making a broken machine whole again with nothing but his hands and his will. As Elliot watched Connor, a different kind of observation began to creep into his mind. It wasn't just about the mechanic's impressive strength anymore or his skill with tools. It was something else entirely. Connor's face, smudged with grease and glistening with sweat, wasn't just rugged, it was handsome. The strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell a little over his forehead, the intense focus in his eyes, it all combined into a picture Elliot found himself unexpectedly drawn to. He noticed the way Connor's shirt stretched across his broad back, hinting at the solid muscle beneath. Even the way Connor wiped his brow with the back of a greasy hand seemed natural, appealing. Elliot, used to polished surfaces and perfectly manicured appearances, found this raw, unrefined look strangely captivating. A warmth started to spread through Elliot, a soft, surprising heat that had nothing to do with the morning sun. It was a flutter in his chest, a feeling he hadn't expected to encounter in a dusty garage. He realized with a jolt that he wasn't just admiring Connor's work, he was admiring Connor himself. The grease, the sweat, the intense concentration, instead of making him look rough, it somehow made him look more real, more desirable. Elliot shifted his weight, suddenly feeling a little flustered, his gaze lingering on the mechanic longer than he probably should have. Connor gave one last firm twist to a cap, then stepped back, surveying his handiwork. He nodded to himself, a small, satisfied smile playing on his lips. The engine, once a silent mess, now looked ready to roar. He reached for the hood, his large hand gripping the edge. Elliot was still lost in thought, the warm feeling from moments ago still tingling in his chest. He was so focused on Connor, on the way the light caught the dark strands of his hair, that he didn't see the mechanic's next move. With a sudden booming sound that echoed through the quiet street, Connor slammed the hood shut. Wham! Elliot jumped, a little yelp escaping his lips, his shoulders hunching up to his ears. His heart gave a startled thump against his ribs. He blinked, wide-eyed, his perfect hair momentarily disheveled by the shock. He hadn't expected such a forceful closure. It was loud, decisive, and very much like Connor himself, no fuss, just getting the job done with a strong finish. He put a hand to his chest, a nervous, embarrassed laugh bubbling out. Oh. Goodness, he breathed, trying to regain his composure. The loud noise had snapped him out of his reverie, reminding him that he was, in fact, in a working garage, not a daydream. After the loud thud of the hood, Connor stood tall, stretching his back with a soft groan of relief. He reached up with the back of his hand, wiping away the sweat and a fresh smudge of grease from his forehead. His face, still smudged and a little flushed from the effort, held a look of quiet triumph. He wasn't just tired, he was the good kind of tired, the kind that comes from a job well done. A contented sigh escaped his lips. He picked up a clean rag from his cart, wiping his hands, though the grease seemed to have become a part of him. He then turned, his eyes finally meeting Elliot. His gaze was direct, friendly, and held a hint of amusement at Elliot's startled jump. A small, easy smile touched his lips, showing a flash of white teeth against his grimy face. He looked at Elliot as if to say, "See, told you I'd fix it." The raw, powerful image from moments ago softened, replaced by the approachable, kind mechanic who had first offered help. Elliot felt a renewed warmth in his chest, a different kind of flutter this time, as their eyes met across the dusty garage floor. He wasn't just looking at the mechanic anymore, but at a man who was both strong and gentle, and surprisingly very appealing. Elliot stood still, caught in Connor's warm gaze. The air in the garage, usually just filled with the smell of oil, now felt charged with something new. Before Elliot could even find his voice to thank him, Connor took a step closer. Then another. He moved with a purpose that left Elliot frozen in place, a pleasant nervousness tingling through him. Connor stopped just inches away, leaning in, his height making Elliot tilt his head back slightly. The scent of sweat and engine grease, surprisingly not unpleasant, filled Elliot's senses. Connor's smile grew wider, a big, genuine grin that crinkled the corners of his eyes and made the grease smudges seem less like dirt and more like charming marks of his hard work. It was a smile that said 100 things without a single word. "I fixed it, you worried for nothing," and something else entirely, something playful and inviting. Elliot's heart gave a sudden hard thump. It wasn't just a flutter now. It was a full, fast beat against his ribs. He felt a blush creep up his neck, warmth spreading across his cheeks. Connor's closeness was unexpected, exciting. The mechanic's grin was infectious, pulling a small, shy smile from Elliot's own lips. In that moment, the noisy street, the broken car, and Elliot's important meeting all faded away, replaced by the surprising heat of Connor's presence. The air between Connor and Elliot was thick with unspoken feelings, like static before a storm. Elliot could feel the warmth radiating from Connor, a heat that was more than just body temperature. It was electric. His heart, already thumping, now seemed to skip a beat, then race even faster. He felt a sudden, undeniable spark, like two wires finally connecting. This was entirely new territory for Elliot. His life was usually so orderly, so predictable. This raw, immediate connection was a thrilling surprise. It wasn't just physical attraction, though that was certainly there, strong and undeniable. It was also the humor in Connor's eyes, the easy confidence, the genuine kindness he'd shown. A little gasp caught in Elliot's throat. He felt a lightness, a bubbling excitement he hadn't known he was capable of. The world outside the garage seemed to dim, and all that mattered was Connor's warm smile and the surprising, exciting feeling that buzzed between them. It was playful, daring, and a little bit dangerous, a thrilling invitation to something he hadn't known he wanted. He wanted to lean in closer, to feel that spark ignite into something more. The moment hung in the air, full of untold possibilities, a sudden bright flame in the ordinary morning. The playful spark between them shimmered in the air. Connor's eyes twinkled as he took in Elliot's slightly flushed face and rapid breaths. He straightened up just a little, breaking the intense closeness, but his grin didn't falter. He gestured towards the shiny blue car with a proud flick of his head. "Well," Connor's voice was a low, smooth rumble, carrying a new hint of mischief. "She's good as new, better even." He paused, letting the words hang in the air, then lowered his voice just a touch, leaning in again, though not quite as close as before. "Want to take her for a spin. See how she feels." His gaze was fixed on Elliot's, deep and inviting. It wasn't just an offer to test the car. The way he said spin, the way his eyes held a knowing glint, clearly suggested a different kind of ride. It was an invitation, wrapped in humor and a dash of daring, asking for more than just a customer satisfaction check. The question hung between them, a silent challenge, a playful nudge towards something new and exciting. Elliot could feel the heat rising in his cheeks again, his heart still beating a quick rhythm. He understood the unspoken question, loud and clear. Elliot's mind raced, a delightful jumble of surprise and excitement. The important meeting he was supposed to attend felt miles away, utterly unimportant compared to the thrilling invitation in Connor's eyes. His lips parted, a small breath escaping. The choice was clear, even if it was completely out of character for him. He looked at Connor, at the grease-smudged face and the confident grin, and a wide, genuine smile broke out on his own face. It was a smile that mirrored Connor's, full of mischief and a newfound daring. "A spin," Elliot echoed, his voice a little breathless but steady. Yes, I'd like that very much." The words felt light and free as they left his mouth, a doorway opening to an unexpected adventure. His heart, still pounding, now beat with pure joy. He felt happy, truly, deeply happy, in a way he hadn't in a long time. The thought of what a spin with Connor might actually mean filled him with a bubbly excitement, a thrilling anticipation for the unknown. This was more than just a car ride. It was a chance to explore a new connection, a new side of himself. He felt a blush creep up his neck, but this time it was from eager delight, not embarrassment. He was ready. A shared smile bloomed between them, bright and full of understanding. Connor's grin widened, the playful mischief still dancing in his eyes, but now mixed with a gentle warmth. Elliot's smile was just as genuine, a little shy, but beaming with a happiness he hadn't known he was missing. The awkwardness of the broken car, the rush of the morning, and the differences in their worlds all melted away, leaving only this moment. Connor gestured towards the driver's seat of Elliot's car, his eyes asking a silent question. Elliot nodded, a silent answer passing between them. He felt a fizzing excitement, like tiny bubbles popping in his chest. It was clear that this spin wouldn't just be about checking the engine. It was a first step, a playful adventure they were about to embark on together. As Elliot moved to open his car door, he glanced back at Connor, who was still smiling, leaning casually against the shiny blue fender. Their eyes met again, and in that shared look they both knew it. This wasn't just a mechanic fixing a car for a customer. This was the surprising, fun beginning of something new, something special. The morning, which had started with a breakdown, was now filled with the promise of laughter and unexpected joy.